Hello everyone. It's been a very long time since I made a video, and this video will appear on both YouTube and Truth Social, of which I have an account. Now, to begin with, a lot of you have seen, especially on Truth Social, how I keep putting up advertisements asking for, funding and investment for an English center. The reason why is because the fact that, well, here in Vietnam, because I have white skin and I come from a nation where English is the primary spoken language, that means that's all I'm allowed to do. I'm only allowed to teach English. I'm not allowed to do anything else. I'm not allowed to be anything else other than an English teacher. And if I don't want to teach English, then I don't work, period. Now, I do agree with the fact that Vietnam does have laws that protect local jobs. I agree with that. But the problem is the fact that when you have foreigners that are long-term residents, such as myself, because I've been here for 6 years, and I want Vietnamese citizenship, like dual Vietnamese citizenship with American citizenship, which will broaden my opportunities for employment. Also, I can go ahead and start my own business. But again, to start my own business, I need funding for that. Now, on YouTube, I did make a video previously that talks about the English Center that I want to construct, what I want, for the future. Now, my English Center, plain and simple, is going to be at least two centers to start with. One would be a home office, and then another one would be a branch office. And what the funding I asked for is 4 million USD, or 4 million bucks. Now, why do I need so much money? And well, that's pretty simple. See, 4 million USD means that the center will run continuously for 5 years. That includes salary for myself as the owner, the director, vice director, manager, assistant manager, office staff, academic coordinators, and the teachers themselves. So I got at least 8 different positions I have to fill. Not only that, but I also have to go ahead and buy, not rent, 2 buildings, because that'll cut down on costs, and then upgrade those buildings to have solar power and things like that, so it'll cut down on utilities even more. And after that, we have to ensure continuous operations for 5 years. Now, as the owner, it would be expected that I would receive any and all profit after all necessary expenses have been paid. But as the owner, I only want my salary to be the exact same as what the highest employee is being paid. For example, not the director or vice director, I'm talking about the English teachers themselves. So if an English teacher is getting, say, 70 million Vietnam Dong net per month, then that's what I get. No more, no less than that. And the reason why that is so that that puts a cap on what I make, so that any and all profit after everything is paid for will will go ahead and excuse me, will go ahead and be used to go ahead and reinvest back into the company, such as bonuses, better equipment, more teachers, things like that. Not only that, but my English Center is going to purposefully only employ qualified English teachers. We're not going to employ underqualified. We're not going to employ illegal teachers. We're not going to employ backpackers, tourists, border hoppers, or draft dodgers. We're not going to employ anybody like that. And essentially, we want offline only degrees, offline only college degrees, offline only teacher certificates, offline only IELTS, TOEIC, or TOEFL certificate for those whose English isn't their primary language. So my center would only employ those that have offline only degrees and certificates. The reason why is because online degrees and certificates can be easily forged or just purchased. You can claim to have knowledge that you don't actually have, and that's not something that I tolerate. Not only that, but I would want to import teachers, not employ the ones that are currently in the country. Because again, as in my advertisement, right now it's a mixed bag. You got qualified, underqualified, and unqualified teachers. Now, the underqualified and unqualified teachers, those are the ones that a lot of these corrupted English centers in Vietnam like to hire, because they can pay them next to nothing, make them work too many hours, and the teacher can't do anything about it, because if they say anything, then their work permit gets canceled and they get kicked out of the country. So it's basically just a modern day form of labor, labor exploitation. Now, reason why my English Center, in my opinion, is so pivotal to the economy is because of the fact that once I show people how an English Center is actually supposed to run, then I'm going to have a lot of people that want to go ahead and not only sign up for classes, but also I'm going to have a lot of people that want to have a job with me. The thing is, though, is the fact that in my company, someday when I have the money for it, everyone from the cleaning lady up to me gets the same level of respect. And if anybody disrespects the teacher, if anybody disrespects the teachers, anybody disrespects the office staff, anyone disrespects, the higher management, anybody disrespects me, well, we're going to go ahead and take appropriate measures to deal with that. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that right now I have no job. Now, why do I not have a job? That's pretty simple. I know labor law, as is evident in YouTube. I have a whole series that talks about the labor law. So no Vietnamese employer wants to hire me, one, because I know my rights under the law, and two, the fact that even though the Labor Department in District 3 of Ho Chi Minh City said that I can apply for any job, it just depends on what the Vietnamese employer wants me to do. No Vietnamese employer will hire me because I'm not a citizen, okay? Because I'm a foreigner, I'm only allowed to work one job, and that's teaching English, and that's it. So that's the reason why I want to start my own business, because I need to work. I have a wife, I have a 3-year-old daughter, I have 2 elderly parents-in-law to take care of, and I need a job. But unfortunately, because of my knowledge, I'm not allowed to get a job. Because of this, I'm only allowed to work one job. The reason why I don't want to be an English teacher anymore, it's simple. It's called edutainment, which is a combination of 2 words, educational entertainment. And I hate it. Why? It's simple. Kids don't learn anything that way. Most English teachers, they only do, games and stuff like that. They don't actually teach the kids anything. It's just basically being a glorified babysitter. That's all it is. Because the kids don't learn anything, just wasting time. That's all it is. Duping parents into thinking their kids are learning English when they're actually learning nothing. Duping parents into believing that an actual native English speaker is teaching their kids, but the quote-unquote native English speaker is from Eastern Europe, Russia, or South Africa. And no, I don't count South Africans as native speakers of English. Reason why I don't count South Africans as native English speakers is this. In South Africa, there are 5 main spoken languages. All right, 5. Zulu, Xhosa, Dutch, Afrikaans, and a very, very, very tiny percentage does speak English naturally. Now, it is impossible for all, and I mean all, of the actual native English speakers from South Africa are all coming to Southeast Asia and especially Vietnam just to teach English. That's not possible. So that means out of 10 South Africans that applied to a job here in Vietnam, only 1 actually speaks English naturally. The other 9 either speak Dutch or Afrikaans as their main language, which means they must have IELTS, TOEIC, or TOEFL at C1 or above in order to go ahead and improve their English proficiency in order to teach English legally here in Vietnam. Not only that, but English teachers also have to have 3 years or more of certified teaching experience in order to qualify. I see people coming in here that have absolutely no experience, not even a teacher certificate, and they're still getting jobs. That shouldn't happen. See, the main reason why I need $4 million is not only to go ahead and start my business, but to also fight corruption. Because of the fact I want to operate my English centers legally, ethically, and morally at the same time. That means my centers will operate to the letter and will not pay any bribe money whatsoever. Anybody comes into my center seeking a bribe is going to have their picture taken and put on the wall of shame. Yeah, I'm going to have a wall of shame of all the people I try to come into my business and ask for a bribe. Because my center would have absolutely no problem being heavily scrutinized by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Immigration, Ministry of Public Security, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and all the other ministries that concern foreigners and teaching English here in Vietnam. Now, why do I want to go ahead and import teachers? Well, again, like I said earlier, it's a mixed bag here in Vietnam, and most of the teachers that are qualified are so jaded that they think their fecal matter doesn't stink and that they're nature's greatest gift to mankind, and I'm not going to employ anybody like that. Then there's also English teachers that come to Vietnam that aren't comfortable living in a communist and socialist nation. Well, if you're uncomfortable with communism and socialism, you shouldn't come to Vietnam in the first place. Now, see, for anyone who knows me personally, yes, I was born in America. I was born on an army base to both parents who served in the U.S. Army. It doesn't get any more American than that. But I lived in Vietnam, a communist and socialist nation, because I wanted to find true love for me. Yep, I'm a passport bro. Why am I a passport bro? It's simple. When you have women that are over 300 pounds with 6 kids, all by different baby daddies, and even they don't want to talk to you because you don't have the six-pack abs, 6-figure income, 6-figure car, 6-figure house. If you don't have any of that, then even the 300-pound women with 6 kids don't want you. So that's the reason why I decided to look for love overseas, and I found my wife here in Vietnam, and we've been married over 6 years. My goal eventually is to obtain, like I said earlier, dual Vietnamese and American citizenship. So this way I can have better business opportunities. Now, the English Center that I want to have will not only just teach English. I want to also teach Korean, Chinese, and German, because I want to focus on just one language, maybe French too. So I'm going to have at least 4 or 5 different languages that are being taught at the same time with qualified teachers from those languages as decreed by the Ministry of Education and Training, because they're the ones who set the rules that concerns who can teach English in Vietnam and who can't. The other thing is the fact that everybody knows it takes 5 years for a business to become profitable. And here in Vietnam, the English centers, here in Vietnam, if you want to start a new one, it has to start right around this time, because you're not going to get any contracts until about the end of the school year, which is in about May or June. And then once you get contracts for public schools, that's where everything goes well. Because an English center here in Vietnam, 90% of their income comes from contracting out to public schools. Because here in Vietnam, you can't apply directly to teach at a public school. You have to go through an English center. Now, the more reputable schools, like private schools, international schools, stuff like that, yeah, you can apply directly. But for regular government-funded public schools, you have to go through an English center. You can't apply directly. So my center would not only hire qualified teachers, but also make sure that they only go to good schools. Because as the owner, I myself would do periodic inspections, along with the director, vice director, do periodic inspections of the schools to not only make sure that my teachers are dressed appropriately and doing their jobs, but also that the schools themselves are doing their jobs. Because my school, my center, will not tolerate disrespect from students. See, the way I look at it is the fact that something I was told a long time ago is that it's not the parents that raise the kids here in Vietnam, it's the teachers that do. And as a parent myself of a Vietnamese kid, I can tell you with certainty the fact that, like I said, disrespect won't be tolerated. So if too many of my teachers are giving the assistant manager, vice director, director too many complaints about a school, I'm going to investigate it, and if I find out it's true, then I'm going to pull the contract from that school. I will do it myself. So I'm not going to send my teachers to a bad school where they're constantly disrespected and, stuff like that. Because there are schools like that here, especially in Ho Chi Minh City, where the students are so bad that no teacher wants to go there, and the teachers that do go there consider it an honor to be kicked out of the school so that they don't have to go back. Yeah, it's that bad. Fighting, drinking, knives, stuff like that. Yeah. But it's not all bad, though. It's not all bad. The thing is another goal of my center, I don't think I mentioned this in the previous video on YouTube, was the fact that I also plan to build or buy company housing for teachers. At first, my idea, as I mentioned in the advertisement, was like a studio or a loft style apartment, but a little bit more rustic. But then I thought about it and I go, nah, I'm going to go ahead and maybe buy a couple houses and use that for housing. So basically put two people in one room, same gender, like two men in one room, two women in one room, maybe four. I mean, a room can house maybe four people. So I think maybe four people with minimum stuff like maybe a TV in there, and that's about it. And that would be free housing. They don't have to pay for it. But if they want to go ahead and get better housing, then my center can point them in the right direction with, low cost housing, like what average Vietnamese citizens would pay, say 5 million for a whole house. Yeah, 5 million Vietnam dong a month for an entire house. Yeah, cheap. Now, if they want to live in the foreigner districts, like Thao Dien Ward of District 2, Phuong Nguyen District, District 7, then yeah, we could point them in the right direction there too. But unfortunately, the better their accommodations, the more they have to pay, you see. And I don't know if they would be willing to fork over half their salary every month just to live in a nice place. Now, for English teachers specifically, I would directly hire from the United States, Canada, UK, Ireland, Scotland, Australia, New Zealand. So let's see, United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. That's where I would hire from. And I would specifically seek out English teachers that have a degree in teaching English for either elementary, middle, or high school, like primary, lower, and upper secondary school, specifically with English teaching degrees and at least 3 years of experience at a single school. Now, the salary might be a little lower because I would pay at least with minimum qualifications as stated by law. I'd pay about maybe $2,200 a month net after all taxes are paid. However, if I had a teacher that had a master's degree and 5 years of experience, they would get about $2,500 a month net after all taxes are paid. And if I happen to go ahead and get a teacher that had 10 years of experience and a master's degree, they'd probably get about $3,000 a month after taxes. The more experience you have at a single school and bachelor's degree or higher, the more you get paid. Now, if someone comes to me and they have the minimum qualifications, but they want $3,000 a month, I tell them flat out, show me. If you want a better salary, show me. Demonstrate to me that you deserve better salary, and I will give it to you. But if you don't demonstrate it to me, I'm not going to give it to you. And then, like I mentioned earlier in this video, there are some foreigners who think that their feces doesn't stink or that it smells of roses and that their nature's greatest gift to mankind. I'm not going to employ people like that. Because if you think you're better than everyone else, you have no place at my business. If you have a problem with communism and socialism, you have no place at my business. Because in Vietnam, according to the Ministry of Education and Training, as set forth by their rules, you must teach in accordance with communist and socialist law. That means many things, of which I'm not really going to get into because the list is just way too long. Now, people ask me, well, people would ask me, nobody's asked me this yet, why reach out to big name celebrities if they're not going to listen to you? Well, you never know. It's better to ask and not receive an answer than to not ask at all, you see. And the kind of money I need can only be obtained from big names like President Donald J. Trump, which congratulations on being the 45th and 47th president of the United States. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, what's his name? I forgot. Bill Gates. Yeah, there we go. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, and other big names. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to see that much money, and I don't think anybody's ever going to help me get my English center started. But just on the off chance that it actually does happen, then I would be 100% honest, 100% transparent. And if the big name investors, whoever they may be, if anybody would actually, want to know how the project is going, then I'd show them, okay, well, this is what we got, this is what we spent it on, and this is how long it's going to take before we see any return. Now, my goal is to not only pay back what we owe, but also to generate profit. And to do that, I have to have funding. Now, my business model includes core staff, like I said, director, vice director, general manager, assistant manager, office staff, academic coordinators, and say about 4 English teachers to start with. That's core staff. That means their salary is guaranteed regardless for 5 years, as long as they work. Now here in Vietnam, it's paid both hourly and monthly. So you can either be hourly or monthly. Now what a lot of people don't realize is that under Vietnamese labor law, full-time and part-time mean the exact same thing. The only difference is the number of hours you work. That's it. Because part-time employees under the labor code, I think it's Article 32, Clause 3, that states that part-time employees shall be granted the same rights and privileges as full-time employees, the same right to salary and benefits, and to a safe and hygienic working environment, the same as full-time employees. So essentially, like I said, it's just a buzzword. It means nothing. So I would actually choose to pay hourly because I think that that's better for them. And even so, I would actually select the rate that's actually payable per minute. See, if you get paid per minute, getting paid $10,000 per minute to teach English means you get about $600,000 per hour, obviously. Now, if you only have, say, 45-minute class period, that's $450,000. Okay, so it's extremely precise. You get paid for what you work. It's that simple. No, 20.33 hours, none of that. Instead of 20.33 hours, it'd be 1,220 minutes. And the employee will have a signing copy. The academic coordinator, TA, the teacher's assistant, they'll have a copy. And both copies have to match. This way, we can't accuse the English teacher of padding hours. We can't accuse the TA of padding hours. And it shows proof that both of them work. That's what I would do to cut down on, time clock fraud. Also, if I have, say, 4 English teachers and they all go to the same school, then I would provide company paid transportation to and from the school. Now, lunch is on them, but I would provide company paid transportation to and from the school if I have 4 teachers or more that go to the same school. If I have like 1 teacher that goes to 1 school, then we'll do our best to try and help them out. Say maybe give them a ride a few times until they can get their own ride, or figure out like bus lines or something like that. The other thing I want to do is I don't want to put too many teachers in 1 school. Why have 4 teachers working 1 schedule when you can have 1 teacher working 1 schedule? Why? See, I want to focus on quality, not quantity. That's one of the main differences between the illegal and corrupted English centers here in Vietnam and myself, is I want to focus on quality, not quantity. See, one of the things about Vietnam that's unique, from my perspective at least, is the fact that when it comes to teaching English, some kids think their English is fantastic. But yet, when you put them in front of an actual natural English speaker such as myself, they can't hold a conversation. They only know, what's your name, and that's it. They don't know how to speak in English because the English teachers only play games with them and they don't learn anything. The other thing I'd want to do is that if any Vietnamese citizen applies for a job at my English center as an English teacher, if they have the same requirements as a non-native English speaker, and they can pass a conversation test with me, then I will give them the exact same salary as I do all my teachers. At least, $500,000, $600,000 per hour, or about $10,000 per minute. That's what I want to pay my teachers, about that much, about $10,000 per minute. Now, I want whole numbers, like $9,000, $10,000 per minute. I don't want half numbers or anything like that. So if a Vietnamese citizen has that kind of English skill, they will be paid appropriately. Now, office staff, usual price for office staff is about $10 million a month. Assistant to a boss is about $15 million a month. Managers, roughly about $20 million plus a month, thereabouts. I think the last figure for a manager was like 22 or $23 million a month. Now, for vice director, I think it's about 30, and director, I think it's about 35 million a month, thereabouts. But the thing is, though, is the fact that the reason why I want my salary the same as the English teachers is because, well, I have a family to support myself, and I want to cap my income, but not so, not so much where I can't provide for my family. You see, because as the owner, the only thing I do is sit back and count my money. That's it. Because I already hired enough staff to go ahead and run the business for me, the way I want it ran. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that, so what happens with the illegal teachers? Well, it's simple. See, my goal is to show people that only legitimate and qualified English teachers should teach English here in Vietnam. Only legal qualified teachers should teach English here in Vietnam. So if you don't meet the requirements, if you don't have at least 3 years of teaching experience, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, technically the rules are right now that it's bachelor's degree in any subject, but for my center, you have to have a bachelor's degree or higher in teaching English. In teaching English, having a degree in English isn't enough. I mean, it's good, but it's not enough. You'd have to have a degree in teaching English in order to qualify. Not only that, but you'd also have to have 3 years of certified experience, preferably from a single school. If you have 3 years of experience, but it's a combination of many different schools and stuff like that, as an employer, or potential employer, I would have to ask why you have so many jobs. It looks better if you have just one job for 3 years, because it shows stability. It shows you're not going to go anywhere. And if I'm going to invest money into a teacher, like buying their plane ticket to come to Vietnam, pay for training, stuff like that, like if they don't have a teacher certificate, pay for that too. If I'm going to invest that kind of money into a teacher to go ahead and have them teach for me, I want them to teach for me for at least a year, like a year contract, which is standard. And at the end of that year, if they want to continue, that's great. If they want to go home, then I pay for a plane ticket back. I pay for them to go back to what country they came from if they don't want to continue, which is fine, But as long as I get at least 1 year of teaching out of a teacher, that's all I really want. Now, for the English Center itself, the business model I have is, well, I've thought of 2 different business models. One is pay by the month, and another one is like year-long contract. Pay by the month has its advantages because of the fact that with pay by the month, the parent only pays for what their kids actually use. And it's more convenient because of the fact that if a parent wants their kids to study English 1 month, but not the next month for whatever reason, then that's that. No issue. But if the parents want to pay in advance, if the parents want to sign a year contract and pay for a whole year, well, the problem with that is, well, in either case, either monthly or contract, is that you don't get your money back. It's going to state very clearly, no refund, period. So if they sign a contract for a year or whatever, then it has to be very clear that they're not going to get their money back. And then if their kid gets kicked out of school because they're too insolent, disobedient, violent, what have you, that the parents aren't going to get the money back, and they can try and sue, try and get that money all they want, but it's going to state very clearly no refunds. So that's the reason why I prefer people to pay by the month, so this way there's no legal issue. But if they want a contract, that's fine. But like I said, no refund. Let's see, what else do I got to talk about? See, the main goal of my English Center is to be a place where people are actually happy to come to work, where people want to fight, not physically, of course, where people fight to get a job at my center. Just imagine that. Imagine you had a job where you're actually happy to go to work, where you're happy to see your coworkers, where, today's going to be a good day. That's what I want. But I want to give that to others, you see? I want to give that to others so that they know what it's like to actually have a great job where they have a boss and an owner that actually cares about them and wants them to succeed and do well. An owner that's not going to steal from them, staff that actually treat their teachers with respect and dignity and honor and all that good stuff, and a center that actually has their teachers back. A center that will fight for teachers whenever students are disrespectful, whenever the school doesn't handle problems appropriately. I mean, all that. But like I said, I can't do that on my own. I need help. Now, if you're curious about my YouTube, there is a video on my YouTube channel that specifically talks about the English Center idea, but I still want to do that. It's just that I don't have the money. I need serious money. That's why I need 4 million USD to go ahead and do this. Now, here's the thing. With that money, it'll be very clearly tabulated. What was spent on what? Okay? So, a small house, used, can go for about, $2 million, or $2 million. Haha, not so cheap. About 2 billion with a B. 2 billion dong, which is roughly about $86,000 US. But a nice house costs about 6 million dong. That's brand new. A nice house with about, 4 rooms costs about 6 billion with a B. 6 billion dong, which is about 240,000 USD thereabouts. Now the thing is though, is the fact that I can either get 2 houses like that for 12 billion dong, or one big building for 20 billion dong. Now, having a big building is great, but when you're first starting out, it's not really something you want because it saps electricity. So what I'd want to do is buy 2 new houses for about 6 billion dong each, have them converted to solar power, and also with conversion to solar power, that, if I remember rightly, and I could be mistaken about this, that if you harvest more electricity than what you need and you pump it back into the grid like the meter runs backwards sort of thing, that the Vietnamese government, from what I heard, and I could be wrong, but from what I heard, it's supposed to pay about 1,500 dong per kilowatt hour that you pump back into the grid. So, yeah. Now, one of the things I heard about as far as solar tech goes is the fact that a lot of people like the lithium ion or lithium iron phosphorus batteries for storage. But for English centers, I was actually thinking about nickel iron batteries. They're one of the first batteries made. They're huge. They don't store power that well, but they're very durable. Very, very durable. Now, the problem is the fact that I don't think nickel iron batteries, I don't think anybody makes those anymore, but it's just an idea. So we would have to go with the lithium iron phosphorus, LiFePO4, lithium iron phosphorus batteries for storage of electrical power. And with that, that decreases our economic impact because we're using our own electricity. We're not taking electricity from the grid. The other thing is the fact that with my center, besides being economically and environmentally friendly, is the fact we're also going to be open with the parents too. That if the parents want to watch their kids learn English, well, there's going to be cameras in every classroom. So if the parents want to watch their kids learn English, that's great. We can figure out a way to give them access to that one specific camera so they can watch their kids. And that way, if the teacher makes a report that such and such kid was misbehaving, well, the parents are going to see that too, so they can't deny it. Now, the cameras in the classroom are there to protect both the students and the teachers. It's there to protect everyone. Because it's there to protect the teachers in case the students misbehave, and it's there to protect the students in case the teachers misbehave. Now, with my screening practices that I'm going to employ, I'm going to make sure to hire only the best teachers, but sometimes something might slip through, And if something slips through, whatever it may be, that eventually it will come out. And when it does, my center will catch it and the teacher will be fired. Now, another thing with my center specifically, I'm going to have uniforms. So this way, nobody gets in trouble for uniform violations. Now, for men, it's going to be the same thing. I would say tan khakis with a nice polo shirt with the company logo, like right here or something, with their name, company logo, stuff like that. They can have a beard, but no homeless person beard. They can't have a beard like out to here. It has to be neatly trimmed. And not only that, but the hair, can't be long, can't have a man bun, nothing like that. You actually have to look professional. As far as ethnic hairstyle, like dreadlocks, okay? My center would be 100% supportive of ethnic hairstyles. We're not going to count that as a uniform violation, ethnic hairstyles and stuff like that. So if people want to wear dreadlocks, cornrows, anything like that, perfectly fine. All right, as long as it looks neat and presentable, that's what I care about. Beards, like I said, neat and presentable. If you want to be clean shaved, that's cool. If you want just a mustache, that's cool. If you want just the beard, that's cool. But it has to be neat and presentable. That's it. For women, women can have either long hair or short hair, but it has to be neatly styled. The uniform will still consist of a blouse, for women, of course, that is presentable with the name company logo. And for the outfit, women can choose to either wear a dress or like a tan dress or tan khakis. And both men and women will wear closed-toe shoes because it looks professional. I don't want to see anybody, men or women that work for me, wear sandals, flip-flops, open-toe shoes, or anything like that. It's not professional. Crocs, not professional. All right, so closed-toe shoes can mean sneakers or trainers, as they're called in the UK, or leather shoes. I'm a little flexible on that. Now, I know you can't find all black shoes. That's okay. As long as it looks mostly black, I'm okay with that. Leather shoes, black or brown, you know, but it has to look professional. Now, my center is not going to focus on edutainment. My center is going to focus on actually teaching the students and making sure that they learn. The TAs that I hire will have to have a high level of English skill. That means that I'm not going to hire a Vietnamese teacher assistant that can't speak English at all. That doesn't help anybody, you see. A lot of English centers here in Vietnam will hire Vietnamese teacher assistants that assist the foreigner teacher who can't speak any English at all. I've actually experienced that myself, and that's extremely uncomfortable because you can't communicate with the TA. You can't tell the TA what the TA needs to do to help the class in the way that you want it, help and whatnot. So the thing is, though, is the fact that with the TAs, like I said, they'd have to have high qualifications, and if the TAs do well, then they get the same salary as office staff, about $10 million a month. And I think that's pretty reasonable because all the TA does is translate instructions from the teacher to the students and help keep the class under control. That's basically all they do. The thing is, though, is the fact that with the teachers themselves, I'm going to make it very clear to both the English teacher and to the teacher assistant, and no fraternization allowed. Reason why is because I don't want he said, she said, or he said, or she said, she said stuff. I don't want none of that. Okay, English centers are meant for teaching English, not for dating. And some English centers here operate just as dating agencies and not as a legitimate business. Again, something I've personally experienced. Because a lot of English centers here in Vietnam only want to hire cute, young, and single. They don't want to hire old, ugly, married, fat guys. All right, they don't want that. They want cute, young, and single. So another priority with my center would be to hire older teachers, the ones that other centers won't hire because they're too old and not attractive. Last time I checked, teachers are here to teach English, not to be attractive and be like eye candy. Now there's a term that's kicked around in China a lot that also applies here in Vietnam. It's called white monkey work. Now, before you go ahead and tell me that I'm being racist, I'm not being racist. That's actually a term that's used. White monkey work is essentially work for white people that basically has said white person acting like a clown in some way, shape, or form. Or jobs that are only open to people who have white skin. Now, in China, these white monkey jobs normally mean acting like you're a CEO or acting like you're a board member of some company that is only there to make the Chinese company look good. That's it. You're eye candy. That's it. Now, a lot of English centers here in Vietnam will purposefully hire people for white monkey work because they want to look good for the parents. Take a white person from anywhere in the world and call them a native English speaker, even though they're not. We've had that from Russia, South Africa, Eastern Europe, places that don't primarily speak English, but they're called native speakers because they have white skin. That's the other thing that I want to do, is to prove to people that white skin does not equal high quality. See, I once knew this guy, and I haven't spoken to him in years, but this guy's African American, stand-up fellow too. He's got 20 years of experience teaching English all across Southeast Asia. He's taught in China, he's taught in Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, uh, maybe Myanmar. I'm not sure. But I know he's taught all across Southeast Asia, including Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea. He taught everywhere. All right. He was denied a job at an English center here in Vietnam because he's black. Yeah, he's black. And he was denied a job because he's black. 20 years of experience, all the teacher certificates, didn't mean anything to that one center because he's black. And I find it sad that a lot of people in the United States are screaming racism and screaming discrimination. They don't know what discrimination is. If people want to know what discrimination is, come to Vietnam. And you'll see real fast what discrimination is all about. Because of the fact that there are places here in Vietnam, especially the wet markets, traditional markets and such, where there's two different price sets. One for local citizens and one for foreigners. One for local citizens, that's the actual price of what it costs. You know, what they would normally sell it for. And then the foreigner cost is the inflated price. Because, oh, well, foreigners can easily afford that because they make so much money. Which technically is true. Because foreigners here in Vietnam that normally work as English teachers make at least 4 to 5 times what the average citizen makes in a month. Yeah, 4 to 5 times the average citizen makes in a month. So there is some basis to that. But at the same time, I feel that everybody should pay the same price whether they're citizens or foreigners. Now, yeah, there's foreigner areas where foreigners like to congregate, like Tao Dien Ward of District 2, Phu Nguyen District, District 7. And when the foreigners gather in those areas, it's called gentrification. Boom! Prices skyrocket. See, here in District 12, where I live, the price of a house per month is about $5 million per month, is like 200 USD, something like that a month. You can get anywhere from 2 to 4 bedrooms with hot water, air conditioner, all that for about, like I said, about $5 million a month. Now, if you were to attempt to rent the same thing in a foreigner district, say even Tao Dien Ward of District 2, where you more than likely can only get an apartment like that, you'd be spending about 30 to 40 million a month. Yeah, you'd be spending at least half to more than half of your salary for the exact same thing. So why live in foreign areas where you have to pay too much versus living in the outlying districts where you can actually afford it and save some money? That's one of the things that never made any sense to me at all. That's the reason why I like living in District 12, because I can pay $10,000 for a cup of coffee, $15,000 for a sandwich, and I'm happy. I'm not going to pay $100,000 for a cup of coffee and $80,000 for a sandwich. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I ramble a bit, but it's been a long time since I've made a video, and I actually want to try and make this at least an hour long, because why not? I don't think anybody's going to watch the whole thing anyways. But getting back to what I was saying earlier, is the fact that with the state of teaching English here in Vietnam, it really needs some help. And the only way to do that is to put my thoughts, put my theory into practice, to show people my vision, to show people that, yes, it is possible to raise the standards of English education here in Vietnam. Yes, it is possible to fight corruption. Yes, it is possible to deport the illegal teachers, the unqualified, underqualified teachers. It is possible to deport them and kick them out of Vietnam. See, the way I see it, it doesn't matter where you come from in the world. If you're legal to teach English here in Vietnam, you're qualified under the laws to teach English here in Vietnam, I say welcome. Find a job. If you're unqualified, underqualified, if you're a backpacker, tourist, border hopper, draft dodger, and you come here to, oh, well, I have white skin, I'm going to teach English. See, one of the other things that I plan to do is that if an underqualified/unqualified English teacher attempts to apply for a job with my company, I would actually do a sting operation. Whereas I let the unqualified/underqualified go through the application process, and then when they come to the center to sign documents, boom, there's people there from Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, but Vietnamese version. that would take the foreigner into custody and start the paperwork to have them deported because of the fact that Vietnam should only have qualified English teachers. And in a broader sense, teachers qualified to actually teach the language. And classifications are important because of the fact that, okay, let me put it like this. Classification for English teachers. There's two classifications: native, natural English speakers, English as a first language. Okay. The second one is non-native English speakers or English as a second language. Very different. All right. Why is it different? The natural English speakers, they know idioms a lot better than the non-native speakers do. However, the non-native speakers have a better grasp of grammar than native speakers do because they actually went through the training to go ahead and learn more about the English language. So there's pros and cons to each one. Now, like I said earlier, if someone's qualified, I will hire them. Doesn't matter if they're native or non-native, they get the same pay. That's one of the things with my center. If you're native, non-native, or Vietnamese citizen, if you qualify to teach English with me, you get the same salary, same benefits, same everything. Because my employees will have social, health, and unemployment insurance, as well as private company insurance. So this way, when they go to the hospital for whatever reason, they have at least two different insurance policies they can use to try and save money. And not only that, but if someone needs to take off because they're having a baby, all right? Here in Vietnam, if you're having a baby, you can take 6 months off and you still get your job back when you come back. Same thing with me. If one of my employees gets pregnant and needs to take time off to take care of the baby, that's fine. They'll have a job when they get back. Not a big deal. If someone, has to go home because like a relative died or something like that, that's fine. But if they don't come back, or if they do, but they go to a different company, then my company would have to start legal proceedings for breach of contract. You see what I mean? But this is my idea. I mean, see, a little bit about me is the fact that I lived in Vietnam for 6 years. And in all that time, I've never been able to get a non-teaching job. Not one. And that's because of this. You see, in Vietnam, they have very specific laws that protect local jobs. And I agree with that, But at the same time, when you're a natural English speaker with white skin who doesn't want to teach English anymore, what options do I have? The only option I have is to start my own business because nobody's going to hire me. Primarily because I speak English, I come from America, I have white skin. Nobody's going to hire me for any job other than teaching English, and I don't want to teach English, so that means my only other option is going to start my own business. So that's where I'm at right now. And, well, just go and put it simply, I need help. I can't do this on my own. I need help. Let's see what else we got. We got about 12 minutes left until it hits 1 hour, so I'm going to go ahead and say this. The fact that here in Vietnam, we're gearing up for Tet, Lunar New Year. This will be my 7th Tet holiday here because I got here in October 2018. And essentially, Lunar New Year, it's like Thanksgiving, only it's about 2 weeks long. See, before Tet, there's a lot of stuff people got to do. People got to clean the house. People got to go visit relatives' graves. There's lots of stuff people got to do. And to me, Tet is basically like Thanksgiving, but it's about 2 weeks long. It's meant to be spent with family. And I actually have learned Vietnamese, for those of you that are wondering, through Rosetta Stone. But unfortunately, what I learned and what I can put into practice are two different things. Because even though I flew through the program in 3 months, I can't even hold a conversation. Yeah, I know. I don't understand how I can fly through the Rosetta Stone program getting nothing less than 80%, which I know in some cases you have to have 89, 90% to pass. But I flew through, passing most of it. Yeah, some of it I had to redo, but I flew through most of it. Didn't cheat at all. It's just my brain. That's it. And yet I can still barely speak Vietnamese. But that's another one of my goals, is to speak Vietnamese so that I can go ahead and talk with my staff directly. I wouldn't have to have an interpreter or anybody like that. Let's see what else to talk about. What else to talk about? Honestly, I can't think of much else to talk about except for the fact that, you know, I want to actually start my English center. I need funding, like I need serious funding. I want to provide jobs to people that need it. I want to change Vietnam and Vietnam's economy for the better while following the laws at the same time. But I can't do that alone. I need help. And that's the reason why I appeal to all of you, whoever you are, whoever you may be, anywhere in the world, that I appeal to you to help me out. If you want to help me see my dream come true, contact me. Either on Truth Social, like leave a message on YouTube, something. But, contact me, say, hey, I want to help. Hey, I'm going to donate some money to go ahead and help you get started. Or, I'm going to fly to Vietnam and meet you in person. Cool. So here's the thing. If you want to fly to Vietnam and meet me in person, that's great. Just go to Ho Chi Minh City and let me know you're in town, and then I'll schedule a time to come meet you in person, and then we can talk about it, in more detail. Now, the first step to starting the English Center is to secure the property. Once we buy the property, then we have to go ahead and make sure it is acceptable as an English Center, which means you got to go through, put fire extinguishers in several different places, make sure that the building's not going to collapse, make sure all the pipes are good, stuff like that. Then we have to go ahead and get signage. We have to go ahead and buy equipment, tables, TVs, stuff like that. Then we have to go ahead and buy office supplies, things like that, signs, like advertisements, stuff like that. And then the next step is then to register as an English Center with the Ministry of Education and Training and the Ministry of Labor. Because you got to have all that stuff first before you can register. And when we register, we also have to have the director, vice director, general manager, assistant manager, and, general core staff, minus the English teachers, of course. And then we have to tell the Ministry of Education and Training, Ministry of Labor, how many students we plan on teaching. Now, in an average bedroom of an average Vietnamese house, you can go ahead and put maybe 10 students in each room. Now, if you're thinking about 4 rooms, that's about 40 students. That's a lot of kids. And at $20 million per student, that's about $800 million for 40 students. Now, that's the amount of students you plan on teaching, not each individual student. You see what I mean? So if your capacity is 40 students, then that's what you teach. And if you plan to expand, then you have to tell them, and then you pay more fees, refile, and stuff like that. And to register as an English Center, last time I checked, USD costs about 20,000 USD. And then $20 million per each student. Then you have to pay for advertising, signs, stuff like that. So it's not going to be cheap. But at the same time, I got the plan. I know what I want, and I know how to do it. I just need money to make it happen. So, yeah, for anyone who's listening, anywhere in the world, no matter who you are, if you know of someone who can help me, let me know. I prefer angel investors because angel investors, they invest their money without, expecting anything in return. Now, my goal is to return the money, of course. But with angel investors, it's less pressure. You see what I mean? It's less pressure. That's the reason why I prefer angel investors. But even with regular investors, I'll still, obviously give the money back once I make that money back. But the thing is, though, is the fact that, like I said, with angel investors, it's less pressure. Now, I think that I've said pretty much everything that I've wanted to say, primarily. Oh yeah, one thing I did forget is that about the hairstyles for male and female teachers, for male and female staff, the fact that ethnic hairstyles are okay. Like I said, like cornrows, dreadlocks, stuff like that. Also, if someone is, say, Jewish or Muslim, and they're required to wear, for Muslim women, the hijab, for Muslim men, that one little cap, or for Jewish men, the yarmulke, all that's fine, because that's religious. You have to wear it. So it's perfectly fine with me. All right. Religious accommodation. Say for people who are Muslims, they're required to pray 5 times a day. My center would make sure that they have time to pray and do what they need to do. Because here in Vietnam, under the law on religion and folk belief, people are allowed to believe or not believe as they choose, as long as it doesn't harm the state or state interest. That's it. So we would make reasonable religious accommodations for people that are of certain religions that require them to do certain things. As far as hair color goes, it has to be natural hair color only. I don't want to see pink, blue, green, none of that. It has to be natural hair color. So if someone has a, brunette, brown hair color, then that's what they're supposed to have. If they come into work next day and their hair is bright green, they got to go home and change it or shave it off. If someone comes in with a man bun, yeah, I've seen a lot of male teachers here in Vietnam, the foreigner teachers having man buns, and that wouldn't be acceptable. No man buns, either, short hair like this or hair that's appropriately styled for men has to be short hair. That's business appropriate. No man buns. For women, can be either short or long hair, but it has to be styled appropriately. And yeah, I am enforcing gender roles because that's what's expected here in Vietnam. Okay? Vietnam is open to a certain extent as far as different ideas goes, but gender roles are still enforced. So women are expected to look and act a certain way, and men are expected to look and act a certain way. There's nothing that can be done about that. That's just what it is. But I hope that through my center, my idea for my center at least, that I can go ahead and do what needs to be done, and at the same time show a brighter future for those that are interested in it. All right, so we got about 3 minutes left until it hits 1 hour, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, what I'm talking about here. As I mentioned before, I'm unemployed, still unemployed, because I know labor law and nobody wants to hire someone like that. So I need funding to start my own English center, but the funding that's needed is a lot, $4 million US, to go ahead and start my English center the way I want, and to guarantee operations for 5 years, to hire only quality staff, to deport the underqualified, unqualified English teachers, and to show people that this is how the English teaching sphere is supposed to operate. That's what I want to do. I want only qualified teachers, only qualified staff. I want to show people what the future should look like. All right. Well, I've talked for almost a whole hour straight about my idea, and I want to try and at least get 1 whole hour on this. So, honestly, there's not much else for me to talk about. Not really. So, yeah, if anybody knows of any angel investors or regular investors who want to invest in my idea, please let me know. Either Truth Social, YouTube, or anywhere else you may happen to see this video. Serious inquiries only, please. All right. I don't want to talk to scammers. I don't want to talk to people who, are going to string me along and not do anything. This is serious for serious people, because this involves the future of an industry and the future of a country at the same time. They go hand in hand. My end goal is to actually make the English of Vietnam better than Singapore. That's what I want to do. Less than 1 minute to go. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video by saying that thanks for listening. If you listen or watch this whole entire video for the whole hour that it's been running, thanks. At least you listen. Even if you don't have any money and you can't invest or anything like that, at least you're listening, and that's good enough for me. So we got about 30 seconds left. So I'm going to go ahead and say, this is Yun Lee Han, broadcasting from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Thank you for listening. And honestly, I look forward to bright days ahead, because of the fact that I'm ready to work. I want to work. I want my vision, and I want my dream to come true. I look forward to working with all the investors that want to invest in my center, my idea, my dream. Have a good day and be safe. Peace.